In light of low gold prices on the global market and the resulting impact on the mining sector, the Government of Guyana, or GOG, through the Natural Resources and the Environment Ministry and the Guyana Geology and Mines Commissions, GGMC, implemented measures with the aim of ensuring Guyana's mining sector remains viable. This week on Dorado Shines, we will take a closer look at the operations of the mining and logging industries. In Guyana, miners are listed under two categories, according to various criteria.
We have two categories of miners. First of all, we have the large-scale mining. The large-scale mining, they are first identified by the Guyana Geology and Mines Commission. They would first review their applications, forward it to GRA. Once GRA would go through the list of items that they would request tax exemption on and complete the process. Now, each step takes about 5 days. From GGMC to GRA, GRA will initiate the process, complete within 5 days, and forward to the Ministry of Finance for approval within another 5 days. So in general, it takes about 15 days, providing there are no queries.
Large-scale miners are entitled to tax exemptions on large capital equipment used in mining operations.
Now, the large-scale miners, they're entitled to most of the equipment for mining, in particular like excavator, bulldozers. Those are considered large capital equipment. And then they will have tax exemptions on their other equipment that they would use during the operation. They will be granted double cab pickups for use within the region, depending on which area they are located, on recommendation of the GGMC.
Partial tax exemptions on some equipment are taken into considerations for small or medium-scale miners.
On the other hand, the small and medium-scale miners, there are a few items that they will be granted tax exemptions on. First of all, ATVs, because we understand the terrain, they will be granted partial exemptions. That is full customs duty and value-added tax, but they're required to pay 30% excise tax on all ATVs. The other items would be things like the matting and pumps and dredges. Dredges are completely free.
Large-scale loggers are granted concessions based on an investment agreement with the Government of Guyana.
Logging concessions, like the large-scale miners, they will be granted exemptions based on an investment agreement with the Government of Guyana. They will first of all have to be initiated through the Guyana Forestry Commission. Then they will pass through the Ministry of Natural Resources and the Environment. They will vet the application, check the items to ensure that they're within the policy guidelines. GRA will continue the process within the same time frame, the 5 days at GGMC, 5 days at GRA and the Ministry of Finance for approval.
In the case of the prospecting licensing, that's the larger scale mining. What we'll do is to give, as it were, investment development agreement called IDAs, and that's essentially will tell you that you are going to invest lots of money in the property that you're going to be mining on. And so once you could ascertain that you have the resources to do it, then we provide you with that IDA, but that IDA will now have to be approved by Go Invest and the ministry, and the GRA before you get the incentive to proceed.
Government assisting miners. Small and medium-scale operators benefit from duty-free access to all-terrain vehicles, or ATVs, excavators, bulldozers, and other machinery used in the mining industry. These waivers on duty are available to new entrants to the sector and for current miners based on production levels. A message from the Ministry of Natural Resources and the Environment. Investors who operate logging and mining concessions can apply for tax exemptions.
Now, the investment agreement is a document drafted by the Ministry of Natural Resources with the assistance of the GGMC. In that document contains items in which the applicant is applying for tax exemption. As I explained earlier, such as motor vehicles and whatever other equipment that the investor requires for use in the operation.
Small and medium-scale miners can benefit from duty-free concessions for all-terrain vehicles, excavators, bulldozers, and other machinery used in their operations.
The tax exemptions are normally granted according to policies. Government has policies for each sector, and within the policy they will have some items that can be granted and some items that will not be granted.
After tax exemptions are granted to concession operators, follow-ups are made to ascertain that the vehicles are being used for the purpose it's intended for.
Well, we have a section called law enforcement. After tax exemption is granted on mostly motor vehicles, our law enforcement officers would from time to time do a verification, a post-verification, along with GGMC representatives. We try to do it after 6 months to a year.
If the vehicles that are given tax exemptions are not being used for the intended purpose, the Guyana Revenue Authority detains them and collects the required taxes.
There are several times when the Guyana Revenue Authority would detain vehicles based on confirmation that it's not used for the intended purpose and collect taxes on those vehicles. This system is very transparent, and we work close with GGMC and the Ministry of Finance in the entire process.
Government assisting miners. In an effort to reduce the cost of fuel for miners, the government of Guyana has granted a fuel import license to the Guyana Gold and Diamond Miners Association Trading Incorporated. Miners also have a concession on fuel where it only attracts 10% CIF excise tax. A message from the Ministry of Natural Resources and the Environment. In an effort to make more mining properties available to small miners and new entrants, the government is making more lands available.
I'm pleased to inform you that since I assumed the role as chairman of the commission, and which is a closed area committee, we made available to small miners some 2,500 mining blocks. In the first instance, 2,000 blocks in August last year were made available to small miners. 1,000 for auction and 1,000 blocks for lottery. What was different this time is that we didn't allocate any lottery block far away from the auction blocks. In other words, if there was gold, hopefully, in any auction block, alongside that was a lottery block also, so that the chances of any miner obtaining a block that perhaps have gold in it would have been equal.
Specific interventions were made to support the mining sector to ensure its survival and continued growth and contribution to national development.
What we found out following that intervention was that a number of miners in two main areas, in the Kaichumo Northwest District and in Madia area, were not satisfied that the process was sufficient to allow them to obtain enough blocks for them to be proficient in their trade. And so we took a decision late last year that we want to go back in and make available to these two communities some 250 blocks each. We kept that promise early this month, and we went into the Northwest and made available by lottery another 250 blocks, and in Madia, another 250 blocks.
The GGMC is also focusing on making more lands available through the lottery system in the future.
In the case of the Northwest, in Kaichuma, 169, I think, of the 250 blocks that are made available through lottery were accepted and given out. And so, the process is continuing, and we are continuing as lands become available by virtue of cancellation of prospecting license or miners not satisfying their responsibilities. We're going to make them available for more lotteries in the future.
Only Guyanese can apply for small and medium-scale mining properties.
In the case of the lottery, in the first instance, you ought to have Guyanese citizenship. You have to show that you probably were in the business of mining or intend to be. There were no specific restrictions. And that is why we had to do some specific interventions in those two areas, because they felt that people from the coastline were getting blocks and they were within these areas, don't have enough land to mine, and they didn't get any.
The mining claim system is very transparent and quality assured.
But because there has been lots of issues regarding, I want a better word, claims that are not being worked on and for which the rentals have not been paid, there is an increased attempt on our part to try and reclaim them so they can be made available for other miners.
A fuel importation license was granted to the Guyana Gold and Diamond Miners Association, given their appeals regarding the high cost of fuel as a main input into the production process. This will allow for cheaper importation of fuel.
My philosophy is that whereas fiscal concessions are useful and are important in the sector, what is more critical is cost reduction and increased recoveries. And that requires perhaps lesser costs in the resources you use. For example, like how much tons of material you're processing to get an ounce of gold, how much fuel you're using, how much labor you're using.
Collaborative work between GGDMA and GGMC are ongoing to identify and test the various technologies available so that these processes can be adopted by mining operations and thus ensure greater recoveries, reduced costs, increased revenues, and ultimately a sustainable gold mining sector.
So we have to do much better in terms of recovery techniques. Reduce our recovery costs and increase, naturally, our marketability and competitiveness.
Government assisting miners. Miners in Guyana have access to 10% of their gold sales available in US dollars to assist in retooling and capital acquisition. A message from the Ministry of Natural Resources and the Environment.
Trees sustain and protect us in invaluable ways, which we are trying to comprehend. Even as much as we've been in it for so long, we're still learning and we're still trying to understand what is happening. It is said that if opportunity doesn't knock, build a door. And that's exactly what U6 Association have done for yourselves. It's not just for you, it's not just for the young generation, but it's for children to come in the future. Today marks an important one for all of us. We, the FAO, EU, GFC, FTCI, and U6 associations will embark on a project that will build capacity for all of us. I welcome you to the launching of our project, which is to develop a pilot timber harvesting and forest monitoring model for all the small loggers associations that will be involved in this project to improve compliance with the forest laws and agree forest management perceptions of Guyana.
The objectives of this project is to improve compliance with the forest laws and code of practices of Guyana, and to also increase the capacity of small loggers associations, that is namely Huru, Araima, Aichuni, Kokwani Natural Resources Organization, UBFPA, and Maria Elizabeth Youth Group. Now, the outputs of this project would see communities being able to manage their resource through the creation of databases using computer softwares, where they'll be able to know what is happening in their concessions. No longer can we say monitoring is just knowing your boundaries. You need to know what is there, how it is being removed, how much is left, and so you can plan for future development. Also, it would create a mechanism whereby easily information can be transferred from the Guyana Forestry Commission to the community associations and vice versa.
The Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations is pleased to be here this morning to sign this agreement as outlined to you, because we believe this partnership is perhaps the best that we can forge in order to bring serious benefit and dividends to the beneficiaries, who are you, the small loggers in this particular case. The European Union, as you would know, in this partnership is providing a sum of US $122,000. The Forestry Training Center is the service provider that will be helping to build the capacity of you, the small loggers, to be able to do your business much better. The Ministry of Natural Resources being the custodian and coordinator of all of this, and FAO being the technical advisor, if you want to call it that, to really help in this partnership so that all of us together can help you, the small loggers, to do your business better. I must remind you, though, or remind us, that the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations has changed its global outlook in terms of how we do our work. I would say the priority focus among these global objectives is really to contribute to the eradication of poverty, hunger, malnutrition, and the improvement of livelihoods, particularly among the vulnerable. Now, in our quest to achieve improvements in livelihood, it is imperative that we give recognition to the environment in which we operate. We cannot just go and extract a livelihood or try to reduce poverty and have no regard for the environment in which we operate. And therefore, compliance is key. It's critical. And that is why FAO saw the need, through the request of the ministry, to be able to cooperate with, in this partnership with the European Union and the stakeholders, to be able to make this a reality.
The EU and Guyana share the assessment that climate change is a real threat for our dear planet at large, and in the Caribbean and in Guyana in particular, and that sustainable forestry can and has to play a major role as part of the solution for both climate change mitigation and adaptation. It is in this context that the European Union adopted the flagged Forest Law Enforcement Governance and Trade Action Plan in 2003, as a response to illegal logging and covers both supply and demand side measures. The action plan's core measures are the flagged action plan, flagged regulation, and the EU timber regulation. It is also in this context that the EU and Guyana officially entered into negotiations on a voluntary partnership agreement in December 2012. And you might have read, and you have heard from Mr. Bremer, that the third negotiation round, which included the agreement on the revised roadmap, was concluded earlier this month. I would like particularly point out and thank Minister Persot for his wise guidance on this and commitment that Guyana is showing throughout the process since 2012, and we have had a quite decent progress earlier this month, which I'm really grateful to you, sir. I welcome that the flagged VPA process also provides an opportunity for Guyana to further strengthen and mainstream its consultations and engagement process to enhance forest governance, improve legal compliance, and build in-country capacity for community engagement in forest policy development and implementation. This might sound like a little bit esoteric words, but it's precisely you people here today, and this should be the outcome of your doings here, to be really more qualified to responsibly handling the logging challenges, I would call it this way. We share a joint interest in a solid consultative process, as well as in ensuring that compliance with forest laws can be further improved. This is nothing specific to Guyana, but a challenge faced around the world. This interest also led to the EU FAO FLEG program, which is of 10 million euros. DFID's participation, and you see the British Union check in there, of pounds 1.4 million, and definitely FAO 1 million euros contribution, which provides support to timber-producing countries to implement projects that target aspects of the EU flagged action plan. I am pleased to see that the project we are launching today is part of this larger program and has specifically a compliance aspect in focus. I welcome the presence of the 6 Loggers Association, which shall profit from this project in terms of managing their concessions, better information flows between them and the Guyana Forestry Commission, and monitoring protocols.
It has always been a desire of successive governments, and also as part of a number of development strategies, and more recently the low carbon development strategy, that we manage and utilize our forest in a way that is not only ecologically sustainable, but also that it provide economic sustainability for the communities that reside within and around those forest areas. And in Guyana, we have been successful in managing and sustainably using the resources through a number of approaches. One has been ensuring that our laws, our regulations, our framework of managing the sector is not only forward-looking, but also it represents international best practices. Secondly, we've taken the approach that we are not only going to be judging ourselves, but we've opened up the systems, the mechanisms, and our practices to all levels of international scrutiny. And we are one, and perhaps the only country, whereby you have national scale review, monitoring, reporting, and verification systems that are not done by us, but are done by independent international partners. And they testify, and have testified successively over a number of years, to the good management of the sector that we've had. But also, another plank in terms of our approach in managing and developing the forestry sector is the involvement of communities. Because we've recognized in the earlier days when there was the issue of illegal logging and illegal activities, is because communities themselves were not too aggressively allowed to participate in the utilization of the forestry resources. And particularly in communities, take for instance in Region 10, where we took a conscious decision when there was the downturn of the bauxite industry to create alternative economic opportunities. We saw that mobilizing and organizing community forestry organization in Linden, in Ituni, in Kokwani, up the Berbice River, Hururu is represented here today, was a way of one ensuring that these communities found economic viability through the utilization of forestry resources, but at the same time, through the involvement of community forestry organization, we are also able to manage and to police and to safeguard our forests, and, as it were, to make Guyana one of the countries perhaps where we can boast in terms of being able to eliminate wide-scale illegal logging and illegal forestry practices. And it is not only because of the regime, our staff, the mechanism nationally and globally, but because we have taken a conscious policy of involving and giving, in some regards, preference to community forestry organizations. And so much so, across our country, we have 73 community forestry organizations, including indigenous communities themselves, who've also been given access in not only in areas where they, within the demarcated areas, but some of those communities have also been able to benefit from forestry areas outside of demarcated areas, so that they too can help us in the overall management and stewardship of our forest area. And I want to refute any perception that there's preference or preferential treatment to non-Guyanese or to any country or any nationality or any company in this regard, because our laws are even. And in fact, if we discriminate in favor of communities, Guyanese community-based organization. I'll give you an example. When we started the whole movement to have community forestry organization, many of the concessions were held by persons who had gotten them in the 80s, in the early 90s, and some even before. And what we did to give some of the communities right here and some of the groups right here was to meet with those concession holders and even take back some areas and make those available to the community organization. And the evidence is very ample in this regard. And that too is a demonstration of the preference and the priority and emphasis. And we don't want community forestry organizations or Guyanese operators within the sector to be left behind. And that is why, through our own resources and being able to mobilize with our partners, we are building capacity and creating new opportunities and ensuring that these organizations allow us to be compliant and meet our obligations, as we are currently engaged with the EU on the EU FLEC program, ensuring that we have a legal verification system, and we're moving very quickly in terms of concluding that voluntary partnership arrangement, so that, again, Guyana can stand proud, and all Guyanese can be proud, too, of the fact that our forests, the management, the stewardship, and utilization of our forests, again, meet best international practices.
Check us out on the internet for this and every episode of Dorado Shines. Just go to YouTube, search for Dorado Shines, and start watching. Or like us on Facebook and receive instant updates. You've been watching Dorado Shines. Do join us again next week for another program. Until then, do remember that we all have a role to play in protecting the environment.